Hello again, everyone. My name is James Shotwell. This is Music Biz, and I have a question. Are you enjoying the return of live music? Are you happy that you can book a show or go to a show whenever you see fit? Well, if so, I have bad news. Now listen, I am like everyone else. I am sick and tired of talking about lockdowns, about vaccination rates, about the entire thing. But if you haven't been paying attention to the news, then you may be missing out on this thing that's happening right now that is threatening to completely derail the return of live music and could potentially ruin countless careers as a result. And I'm talking about the Delta variant. Now, I don't need you to head over to Google right now or to your favorite news podcast to learn about it. I'm going to talk about it a little bit here. But what you need to know more than anything else is that COVID rates are rising, and I mean at an alarming rate. After over a month of dwindling numbers, the daily case rates are skyrocketing yet again, and that is putting a lot of us in the music industry and in the general public overall in a very dangerous position. So the Delta variant, for anyone that's unfamiliar, is the most transmissible strain of the COVID-19 virus that we've seen to date, which means it's easier than ever for the disease to move between two people. And yes, there are reports of people who were previously sick and have developed antibodies also contracting the Delta variant. And there are even reports of people who have been vaccinated contracting the Delta variant of COVID-19. And while all that is scary in and of itself, the rates of people who have had antibodies or have gotten vaccinations that have gotten sick are nowhere near the extreme, and I mean really surprising, fast rising numbers that we're seeing for people who chose to never get vaccinated. I mean, if you were somehow lucky enough to be alive in the world in 2020 and never get the coronavirus, you decided not to get the vaccine because you didn't think you were ever going to catch it, and now you're trying to re-enter the world as all the rest of us do, especially people who have been vaccinated, and just go out there as if nothing ever happened, the likelihood of you getting sick because of the Delta variant is greater than it has been at any other point in the COVID-19 pandemic since the start. If that doesn't scare you, I don't know what will. Now, I don't want to get into fear-mongering here because, as the Wall Street Journal itself recently reported, a version of COVID is always going to be with us. I mean, that's just how this happens. We're not going to eradicate it forever. But we don't know enough about the Delta variant yet to really get our hands on it. We don't really have control of what's happening with the situation. It's changing every single day. We're learning new information. And as more and more people get sick and we learn more and more information, the demands that people in positions of power take action continues to grow. But after a year of people being isolated in their homes and finally getting the chance to return to the normal world, to return to some sense of normalcy at least, people are way more hesitant to go back into lockdown. But there is a case to be made that that might have to happen. And let me give you just a few small examples of why. The government had this goal that by July 4th, 70% of the United States population that was able to get vaccinated would be vaccinated. When that time came, we were only 4 percentage points off from hitting our goal. But what you have to remember is that that's the total United States citizenship. That's everybody all over the country. There are several states where the vaccination rate is far below 70%. In fact, Ohio, which is in the bottom 5 states for vaccination rates, recently said that they won't hit 70% until at least May of 2022, which is basically a year from now. And in the time between now and then, all the people that are not vaccinated are going to be going out there in the world, hanging around with everybody else, and the likelihood of this Delta variant getting them sick is extremely high. And who knows what's right around the corner? There could be yet another variant. In fact, it's more than likely that there will be. So there's this group of people, this very, very large amount of our nation that has yet to get vaccinated. And as a result, they're putting themselves in danger and others of contracting and transmitting this disease. But maybe you think that we are the exception. I mean, after all, so much of entertainment, what attracts us to it is that we connect with each other. We're honest with one another. We're talking to each other. You want to believe that if you go to a full capacity show, everybody in the audience is vaccinated because after all, that's what the guidelines state. You can go back out into the world and take your masks off as long as you've been vaccinated. But we know deep down in our hearts that that's not the case, because if you give somebody the opportunity to not do the thing that you ask them to do, they are going to not do it if they feel like they can get away with it. And what happens when that occurs? A Dutch music festival that happened over the weekend. Over 1,000 new cases of COVID were linked to people attending that festival. Now think about that. According to a report that was posted on Pitchfork, 1 in 20 people that attended this music festival left and transmitted COVID as a result of going to that event. And if you think about that, that's 1,000 more sick people out into the world, and every person that they interact with has the potential to get sick. So it's very easy to imagine going from 1,000 people to 10,000 to 100,000 and so on and so forth. It just spreads like that, especially with how highly transmissible the Delta variant is. Which brings us back to the fear that is circulating throughout the music industry. Now, if you can go off to a festival or to a concert and show evidence that people going to these events are leaving sicker than they arrived, that they're going there, it's becoming one of these mass spreader events, and then people are going out into the world and making even more people sick, well, then you have this cluster point. You have this point in culture where people are getting sick, and what's a government going to do, or what's a leader going to do, or what's the industry at large going to be forced to do as a result? Well, they're going to have to put a stop to that. They're going to reinstate lockdowns to make sure that these super spreader events no longer continue, at least until we can get a grapple on that. And there's only so much you and I can do about this, whether you're a musician or a music professional or just a music fan. The only things that we can really do are get vaccinated ourselves, tell our friends to do the same, wear masks indoors. I know that it's a headache, especially when you're at a concert. You don't necessarily want to think about doing that kind of thing, but with this new Delta variant and all the things that we don't know about, it's certainly not the worst idea to put your masks back on indoors. And again, promote the idea of getting vaccinated. I know there's a lot of disinformation out there, and this is certainly not a science channel where I can answer every question that you possibly have about the vaccines, but there's evidence that shows that they are significantly lowering your chance of dying and lowering your chance of getting sick, and well, that's good enough for me. But if it continues as it is right now, with the Delta variant spreading like wildfire around the world, scientists not being able to get a handle on how to control it, and people refusing to get vaccinations, well then anything that could be labeled as a super spreader event will inevitably be canceled, postponed, or told just it cannot happen. And if that occurs in the music industry right now, after barely surviving the last year, I cannot tell you how many venues, employees, and artists will no longer be able to pursue their dreams of music or working in this industry because there won't be the economy there to support them. So if you're enjoying this newfound freedom that we have, this ability to go back to shows, if you've been buying tickets to see all of your favorite artists because literally everyone is going on tour right now, if you want to see those shows happen, especially when they're scheduled to happen, well then we've got to be better. As a community, as a culture, as a species, we've got to support one another, we've got to take care of one another, we've got to look out for one another, we have to protect ourselves as a means of protecting others, and we have to realize that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. And I don't mean to say all this to scare you, but I do want you to be aware of what's happening, because every time we step out that front door, we're walking into a situation surrounded by people who are making their own decisions in life, and not everybody is considering how those decisions may impact others. But if we do not get a handle on this, things are going to go back to the way that they've been for the better part of the last 18 months. We're going to be in lockdown, we're going to be isolated, and there will certainly not be concerts or festivals or any of these massive communal gatherings happening. And I don't want that, and I don't think you do either. So take care of yourself and do your best to take care of others. And if you want even more insight on the music industry, well, that's why this channel exists. Music Biz is here to help you figure out how to navigate the modern music business. I'm here every single week providing videos and tutorials and guides and answering questions and anything else you have. So if you haven't done so already, click the subscribe button down below. And if you have, well, I thank you so much for your continuing support. I hope to not let you down. And until I see you next time, I want you to do something for me. No matter what happens in this life, no matter what you choose to do, what career path you follow, who you decide to become, no matter what happens, take care of yourself because you deserve it.